Welcome to the AlphaMind podcast, which is produced in association with our educational partner, the Society of Technical Analysts, the STA. Before we go to the podcast, just a quick note about some of the work of the STA, who obviously they're very well known for their work for over 50 years in the fields of price action analysis and their excellent development programs and membership services. But we want to advise you of a new program which we will be delivering in association with the STA starting from March 2025, delivered over 10 weeks via Zoom in a live interactive program which goes deep into what it takes to be a high performance trader. This course goes deep into the realities of being a trader. It goes deep into the psychological, the behavioural, the mental, the emotional challenges of being a trader and how these play out in your trading and how these interfere with rational application of processes, practices and ideas. It goes deep into the key elements that make a trader a high performance trader. It looks at how they are in the background when they're doing the job. We believe there's two sides to trading. One is having a strategy and approach which helps you find value in the market, and the other side is your ability to execute on that. Now, quite often people come to trading with, I would say, some false beliefs or even some early misunderstandings, or even they just apply their first experiences. No one really knows, or very few people really deeply understand the market system they're in, how the market system works, how that affects them, how to navigate that most productively, how to apply their knowledge of markets and their system effectively, how to manage themselves when doing that. What are the performance traps that they fall into, and how can they be more aware of them? These are all some of the themes and concepts which we explore in depth in this program. They're done in a live and interactive format. They're done in a peer learning format as well. So you will be interacting with us as the facilitators of the program and your colleagues on the program, which is open to people from all sides of trading. And we broadly divide that into two sections, which we call professional trading and professional retail, which is more advanced retail trading. So you have a chance to interact through the program with these people. Again, like we say, it's being delivered via Zoom across 10 weeks starting in early March. To find out more about this, go to the Society of Technical Analysts website, which is technicalanalysts.com. Go to the courses page and then scroll down to the bottom and you will see the course being offered. Details there. It's called the High Performance Trader Learning Program. You can also, there's another program on there which is also new, which isn't pure price action. It's called Technicals to Trading Systems, and there is a special offer by the Society of Technical Analysts where you can do both courses, apply for both courses at a reduced rate. To find out about that, you have to email the Society of Technical Analysts, info@technicalanalysts.com. Also, just to let you know that as a listener of the AlphaMind podcast, you will be entitled to a discount on their brilliant home study course, which is a very thorough learning program, diploma level program, which goes deep into technical analysis and deep beneath technical analysis to help you improve your understanding of this particular way of interpreting price action as a means of using that in your trading. To find out more about that offer, go to our website alpha-mind.net and scroll down to the part of the page that says read more about our sponsor, and details are on a link there that takes you to a page which provides more insight on that course, on the home study course and the discount. Just to let you know briefly that the discount is £100 or your currency equivalent, and you can obtain that by purchasing the course and putting in the promo code AlphaMind in capital letters. In this week's podcast, we are talking about intelligences in trading, and in particular the different intelligences we can, and in particular the different intelligences we can bring to trading and apply. Often we feel that people over rely on the wrong sort of intelligence and underutilize the right sort of intelligence. That is actually generally the case, although we find that people who succeed in trading don't seem to have that problem as much. Mark Randall, my co-host, has well-developed views on that, and partly because I've got a bad throat today, and partly because he is the guest on this particular podcast, I will be standing back a little bit and let him doing most of the talking. I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Well, sorry to hear about your voice. We know that Arsenal won 5-1 yesterday, and that you weren't on the terraces screaming your head off much. So yeah, hi guys. We thought this was an area that needs airing. Certainly, from my historic experience of exposure to a whole myriad of traders, and also people looking to place what they thought was an asset, a human asset, into a trading role, and perhaps how that got that so wrong. I think there has been an assumption, and there is an assumption, that to trade you need to be really, really clever, really, really great at maths, highly intelligent, super high IQ. And I think it's a total myth. I think it's a total load of bollocks, to be quite frank with you, just to throw it out there. That actually, certainly in the early days of the futures market, it was the people that came from normal backgrounds but were street savvy, that were smart and sharp. Those guys were the guys that were successful, thinking on the feet, being agile, also having a desire to, just get on with it and perform. They tend to be quite resilient as well. So they took knocks well, bounced back well, and actually were quite much more sociable. And so they shared stories with the likes of each other. And I think that the people that at the other end, or let's call it a intelligence spectrum, be careful how I use the word, but the people that come out of the big universities, that degrees and PhDs and masters and everything else under the sun. So those people that I've seen generally, there are exceptions, but generally were socially inept, had too much overthink, actually had this assumption that they were genius. There's this assumption that I'm clever, I'm smart, and thus this is going to be easy. And they were applying those sort of tactics in, how they dealt with the journey of, becoming a trader and actually trading. And so many of them were failing. I mean, I've seen failure occur on somebody's trajectory because, they just thought, sometimes it's the parents wanted to make sure they were super educated, that, that there was a line into the city as a consequence of this education. And actually, because how some of the city institutions sort their talent via somebody's CV and thus their background and thus often their university and often their degree, these people ended up in sort of, very, very good jobs based upon a CV that didn't actually reflect their trading intelligence. It was something else. And I think that there is this opportunity to actually ask the question, well, what is trading intelligence? And I'll just go back to the early days of the futures market where, you saw an assumption where, people thought, I'll get my well-educated son onto the floor, and let's just, that's the right sort of person to be down there. But they weren't the successful ones. It was the people that came from the street, essentially, that had maybe a hard knock life, but had this desire to get involved and I guess be curious about things. And certainly with clients that I coach, I do ask the question about, their sort of history, and try and get them thinking back to that very curious state when they were a kid. We talk about kids growing up, right? But I think there's an absolute point where people are, think they're so smart and so experienced that actually the phrase of growing down makes sense to me. Actually, start to think about your attitude, your curiosity, your resilience when you were a kid, and what interest and what drove you as a kid is actually a really, really good method of actually coping with the modern world with its all the complexities, rather than thinking, yeah, I'm grown up, and I don't want to show my emotions. I don't want to, don't want to be seen to be failing and crying and whatever. But as a kid, it's kind of what we did, right? And we got up, carried on, we got bruised, we learned, we took risks more, we climbed trees, we cycled with no hands on the handlebars and all this sort of stuff. That was us as a kid. So we threw ourselves at risk. We walked towards stuff because, and we didn't have any, certainly as a child, you didn't have this sort of thing about, cleverness wasn't really taking shape. It was just your mates, right? You just got on with your mates and didn't pay too much attention to it. So I think we've got a little bit too dug into what the assumption that, Ivy League, Russell Group, or whatever, education you've got paves the way to success in trading. And I don't think it does. I think there's a different level of intelligence. I think emotional intelligence is not actively taught, but I think there's emotional intelligence that's super important, and how you access that. I think social intelligence, I guess, getting on and being, having a balanced sort of lifestyle where, the social side is super important enough for you to talk about, and sharing challenges and understanding that perhaps there are things that you yourself don't just suffer. If everyone's suffering from it, you just think, yeah, worker, we can talk about that, rather than keeping it inside. And I think, a lot of the failure I see is from people that keep stuff inside, that don't want to show the fact that they're weak and they're vulnerable, or it's something that might degrade their perceived intelligence to others because they're showing a bit of a weakness. And I think we just need to, I guess, understand that. I mean, I don't know that HR teams are particularly helpful in, understanding the general opportunity of the population, rather than filtering it down to what's perceived to be intelligent, and that then becomes a stream into the trading business. I guess it sorts. If you've got thousands of applications, you need to sort them somehow, but they may be missing a huge amount of talent that's there in like the real normal world that might just have a couple of CSEs and an O-level in woodwork, but they may be the world's best trader just sitting there waiting for an opportunity. I think it is all about opportunity. And if I have a purpose, one of my purpose, if purpose is a thing, and we've already talked about whether intelligence is a word. I'm up for debate about that. The collective intelligence, I think, is a nice way of putting it. But, one of my purposes is actually to, give people the opportunity to succeed where perhaps, they wouldn't have a gateway to succeed. I suppose if you look at football, it's like, identifying that natural talent of someone that's just playing on the beach in Rio, and you can just see the talent, but it's young, it knows what it's doing, it's worked it out, it's natural talent. And I think there are perhaps ways to observe natural talent for the qualities that are involved in trading. I think that's something to be considered, to be looked at, and I have some idea. I'm not going to share the ideas because some might be IP, but I think I have some ideas as to where to look and how to look for that and what qualities to look for early on to start to understand if someone's, got something about them that could be translated into someone that can face, the market with, the qualities that we know, and the qualities that from I guess our performance process cycle that we use in our workshops is a good mechanism for understanding, what are the critical qualities within that, purpose, being, attention, how you see the world, the curious sort of beginner's mind, and how you're formulating ideas, and then what you do with it when you get an idea, and how you process that into an action, and then the action of detaching the emotion from the trajectory of the trade, and then measure, just coming to an outcome, and then having followed your plan and your process, then moving on, letting go, and resetting, recalibrating, and off you go again. I think that's an interesting cycle to apply to what qualities come out of that we should be paying attention to for someone that's an emerging talent that might, it could be a 12-year-old. I mean, it could be someone, a 12-year-old, you just think, there's something worth watching there, something worth sponsoring, nurturing to accelerate that journey. So that's my introduction. That's where I am. But you can say I'm a little bit, I've got a purpose about it. That it's important to me to understand that. So that seemed like a good start for 2025.
Thank you. And I mean, it is an important point because, the question I suppose some people will be asking is, do I have the right sort of intelligence to succeed in this job? And I have seen people who have doubted their own intelligence and then suffered as a result, when actually they did have the right intelligence, but they overvalued what we call academic intelligence.
Exactly, yeah.
Which for many reasons, they'd not been able to really develop. They grew up in a sort of a low income area, in a low income family.
That's okay.
Single family, and lots of things went against them during their educational years, and then they carried that with them into the world of trading, and then used that to kind of turn in on themselves. And actually, it was clear to me that they had all the raw ingredients, and it comes to this question: what are the other intelligences, and can they be developed, and can they be? How can we harness them? So I want to throw that back to you to explore a bit.
Well, I think we have this ability. I mean, the brain can be, I know that there's this comment, well, is it just a fixed state? Well, no, it has something called neuroplasticity where, it can be managed into a far more optimal state than it currently is in through, actually, that I'm big into mindfulness and all that's mind fitness stuff. And that's a route to increasing the neuroplasticity of rewiring the brain to be historically, maybe sort of, well, historically I'm talking sort of going back to the evolution of us. We have a slightly negative mindset because that was a protective mindset, but actually through neuroplasticity you can switch it to being just ever so slightly positive as your default. And that's a very, very useful place to be, because you tend to be fresher of mind. You tend to have a very present moment, what's important now type attitude, rather than using the damage of the past to be constantly being on your mind, to be remembering that you're not good enough and saying, I wasn't good enough before, so I'm not good enough now. So I think the whole concept of presence and having a route to presence is a significant weapon in changing somebody's profile as part of a portfolio of things. So, certainly have presence is right up there. Because if you're not here now and you're stuck in your head, then you're going to be stuck in whatever the movie your brain wants to be running at any given time, and you're the action hero in a disaster movie, in your own disaster movie. That's running out through many people's minds out there. That's the constant theme. So getting present and just sort of managing the distraction of negative thinking and negative sort of reimagining the past is a very important starting point.
We'll return to the podcast in a moment. Just first, Mark, could you tell our listeners a little bit more about the new High Performance Trader Learning Program?
Yeah, and just to make all you guys aware that part of the journey, of course, is educating yourself in the right way. We're delighted to be running a course with the Society of Technical Analysts, which is the High Performance Trader Learning Program. And that is currently available as part of the suite of products that the STA are pushing out to their audience. So do look at signing up for that. It starts in March, not many places left. It is you investing in your future. So do make sure you look on that. And if you join, we look forward to seeing you there.
To find out more about this program, go to the STA website, technicalanalysts.com. Go to the courses page and then scroll down to the bottom of the page. Now, back to the podcast. It's this question of intelligence. And I know it could be a little bit of a red herring because, there's an awful lot of people who don't really allow it to get in their way. And I would say it's developing the right intelligences, though. I mean, there are intelligences that can be developed in trading, or is there another aspect which needs to be worked on? Is it about self-awareness, and is self-awareness an intelligence?
I think it is. Yeah, I think presence is an intelligence. The emotional intelligence is part of that suite, but I think presence in its own right has to be the basis for intelligence to emerge.
What sort of intelligence is that?
That's awareness and attention. And as I've always shared that story in the past, that I think there's a different level of awareness intelligence if you're stuck in a black and white mono world of pre-tornado Dorothy, and you suddenly realize through a higher level of presence you've kicked open the doors to HDMI, full color, Dolby Sound, surround Atmos. That's a different world. And I think there is intelligence around awareness. To be far more aware is just you being intelligent and engaging with your surroundings. And I think that's something that can be nurtured.
Yeah, I mean, it to me, this self-awareness is such a crucial skill in trading, and it's something that everyone at various times gets challenged with. And bizarrely, when I hear from people who tell me they're incredibly self-aware, I usually find that they aren't. And often, when I ask people, who I find incredibly self-aware, they don't actually think they are so much, and it's one of those ironies. It's something you do rather than something you talk about doing.
Yeah, I would. If someone said to me, I'm really aware, self-aware, aware of where I am at any given time, I could probably challenge that and go deep enough to work out that they're not. But then actually make them understand on the gauge of awareness where they are, and then start to talk about a methodology of moving that gauge to something that they stand back and go, okay, I know now what I was missing. And actually being too self-aware can be a problem too. If you're too self-critical and too much paying attention to your foibles and your weaknesses, for example, I think that can become a problem. So certainly a balanced approach to self-awareness, I think, is a very important starting point. So to become self-aware and then to calibrate it so that it doesn't become a problem one way or the other. So it's optimal state. We talk about optimal state in the being part of our journey around the performance process cycle. It's about understanding that my optimal state might be slightly different to your optimal state, and kind of working out what that is as a platform to launch yourself and power yourself through whatever complex journey you're about to embark upon. And it's working with people, I guess, at a coaching level, mentoring level, whatever, to kind of figure out what that equation looks like for an individual, because it will be different. And then actually starting to put the inputs into that equation for it to turn into something that actually goes to a positive change. It starts to set people up. And I think that growing, this idea of getting a bit old and set in your ways is something that needs absolute recalibration and reset, as much as sending someone or setting somebody up with the right sort of base, or even finding people that have worked out what that base is without any intervention at all. So that you can see that by speaking and hear that when you meet somebody that's kind of worked that out, they resonate, they connect very differently. They're the sort of people that I'm very interested in, and I meet them very occasionally. I mean, one hopes to think they think I'm one of them as well if they look at me, because I've kind of worked it out. But it's really, really important. There may be a natural sense of almost just concluding that, okay, this person, whatever they do, is probably going to be good, because they've worked out this bit at the bottom. Like whatever they put their hand to, actually, other people might think, oh, you're just lucky. Well, no, you kind of just worked out that beginning bit, and whatever you do, you've got the right attention, the right focus, the right energy to do your best, and actually your best stands out as being pretty good to others.
Okay, so something's come up for me, and I'd love to.
I saw it. I saw you stand back and think, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
What was it?
Well, I'd like to run this past you, but I'd also like to challenge the people listening to this. Okay. I said that some of the least self-aware people would like to tell us how self-aware they are, while some of the most self-aware people, I think I said that wrong there. So some of them, the least self-aware people would tell us how self-aware they are. Some of the most self-aware people you'll ever hear don't actually believe they're that self-aware. And now I talk to the people that come to us for coaching, Mark, the people who reach out personally. And also we see it at the company level, companies that reach out to us. And, we're doing more and more work with teams in businesses and even companies, whole ecosystems. There's something in there, isn't there, where you're willing to reach out for help if you're highly self-aware, but don't think you are. Whereas the opposite happens. You don't think you need help because you think you're so good. And the bit where I said I'm going to challenge the audience, the people listening, to think about that, is I'm going to go back into my own journey. And if you've listened over the however many 140 episodes we've done, you've heard me say this often, that when I was offered coaching at the back, I worked for 25 years ago now. And I was what would be considered a senior trader 13 years into my trading career. I said, no. I don't need a coach. Why would I need a coach? What the hell are you giving me a coach for? I'm a senior trader. I'm capable. I don't need it. It was like an affront to me at the time to think that I might need external help. Now, it goes back to this point. The people that come to us, they're not afraid to ask for help. They're not afraid to have reflection. They're not afraid to have feedback. They're not afraid to look at themselves under the light of external examination. You know, they're like elite sports people who want more and more coaching, not because they think they're good enough, because they actually think they could probably be better. And getting external help, that may help them do it. They don't know themselves how to go there. So I'm challenging you listening to this, and I'd like to know what you think, Mark.
Yeah, I don't think it's about asking for help. I think it's about actually
Seeking it, not
being intelligent enough
Yeah.
to actually think, I need to work with someone to actually be the best version of who I can be at any given moment for the circumstances that I face. So I think it's just it's more of a professional engagement for someone to be on the journey with you, to be the inspiration for for your next move, to be the sort of the sounding board for tweaking your sort of the elements of your performance for whatever task you're doing. Now, obviously in sport it's more obvious. It's a bit more subtle in trading, I suppose, because it's multifaceted. Me and you have this debate about whether it's a game or whether it's war. I still think it's war. Having been in the pit, I can tell you that was pretty bloody brutal. But I think it's about just being willing to invest in your journey. And I don't think that's help. I think it's you want to invest in your journey and link up with a professional that knows the space. And we know that in this space, Steve, a lot of people are in this space being coaches, but not necessarily know the background of the business as we do. So it's hooking up with someone that is relevant, has been on the journey, and you invest in to be part of your journey, to enhance your journey. And I don't know that feels like help. I think it's an investment decision, I think.
Yeah. But I say that because you made an interesting point. It's almost like they don't question it. They're willing to accept it. They can see the value in it.
Yes, exactly. It's a value proposition.
So it's not a trade. I think when I explained what was happening there, is I showed a complete lack of self-awareness at that point in time.
Yeah, you had a knee-jerk reaction to it, didn't you?
I did, but it was that was an example of the opposite of self-awareness, and it actually, that moment reflected where I was at that point in time as well. Do you know what I mean? I just, that was, my trading wasn't going well. I felt a little bit lost, and the way I was engaging with markets was suboptimal. My confidence was low, and I was looking for certainty in nearly every trade, which of course we know is, well, it's a lack of self-awareness if you think there's certainty in any trade. And it was, I was kind of halfway out the door of my trading career at that point. And it was, it wasn't forced upon me, but there was a wake-up call that made me think about, okay, I should try this. And then that changed everything for me in terms of my trading career and what happened. And we've worked with companies. I'm going to go back to that. We do some performance consultancy, and we see the self-awareness in them. So it's not just an individual thing, is it?
No, and I think this whole concept of education's, as you were trying to be, as a trader of some 15 years experience, you were being told to re-educate yourself almost. You need to have some education, Steve, because we need to smarten you up with some coaching.
I don't think that was it. No, I don't think it was that. It was, it was almost more akin to, this. It was almost like you need to become more aware. We're going back to that you're not aware of your situation. You're not aware of what's happening.
Why do you think they pinpointed you? What was their reason for saying, Steve, you need coaching?
Well, to be honest, it was a trial. We had
they had 1,000 traders. Why choose you?
Well, it wasn't. They had a lot of traders, but in terms of coming down to the person making the choice, he was my boss, and he had joined from another bank. So it was really out of a small team of maybe 20. And I think he looked across the team, and he sort of, as he got to know us all, I think he actually thought I'd be the most open to it. And I think he was very surprised when I pushed back. Okay. I loved looking at the psychology of things. So he went in with that angle, thinking that's going to help me. And he wanted to bring it in across the board. I would be the guinea pig for it. So I think he just thought I'd be more acceptable to it. And I didn't think he realised how much I'd pushed back against it. And it was only when he sold me the benefits of it, and I kind of sort of thought, what harm can it do? It was a bit reluctant I went into it, put it like that.
Excuse me. Yeah, I think, and of course, the starting point for you is that you pushed hard to get into the city. You eventually got in. Haven't had your education, and then you went on your journey, but you didn't go on your journey with much assistance, did you? It was kind of like, go sit down there and make money, sit down there and figure it out. There was none of the emotional intelligence stuff that we've been talking about was part of that. Neither was it part of school education either. I mean, it's just not that. In fact, if I look back, the most important stuff that I learned in terms of what helped me get through multiple challenges was the stuff I did under the Duke of Edinburgh's Award Gold Scheme, which was a leadership program that they ran as we're running day camps for Americans at the American schools in London, in Wimbledon. And they said they put us on a 1-year program with a martial arts expert, a legend. He was world champion kung fu teacher. He was 8 sash, black 8 dan or whatever, black sash they call it in kung fu, not black belt. But he had the world record for 1-arm press ups or something as well. But he was guiding us in essentially the cognitive part of martial art training. So not the fighting, but the attitude, for a year of once a week, going along and doing this stuff that looked a bit odd at the time, frankly, in 1978. But that was probably the toolkit. If there was a toolkit in the whole of my education, that was, you pick it up and go, what toolkit would you put into the world of trading and dealing in markets? It was that toolkit. So right. That was more important as a piece of education about a different level of intelligence than I'd learned at school or at college or whatever. It was that made the difference to me, that I was reacquiring as I started to apply it into, when you started to face challenges, trauma and God knows what else. So we talk about education, but there's different parts of education that we need to appreciate is out there that's not necessarily the academic education that we're used to thinking means intelligence.
Yeah. It is a strange thing. I mean, for me, it was when I started, it was sink or swim, and I remember thinking, I can't. What is this?
It's tough, yeah. It's like the craziest thing ever, particularly when you start having negative money turning up on your screens that keeps on getting worse day after day.
I mean, I'm coming from a different place. So of our listeners here, I don't think a lot of them will be going through the same experience that I went through, in that I worked for a professional firm, an investment bank, that what I call inside the system. Whereas they're outside the system. A lot of them are retail traders, private traders, Some will be professional traders inside the system. Some will be pros outside the system. And they're coming from a different angle. But there is a similarity still. A way to, how do we find a way? You have to find a way. If you're inside the system, you have to find a way how to make the system work for you, which I was always trying to do. And you've got to work your place in the system. Not everyone is inside. The system is in the same place. And by the system, I mean, you're inside a firm where you have a slight edge because, the market comes to you. Whereas if you're outside the system, you don't have any edge at all. But you have to find a strategy or tactic, a way of shifting that, a way of observing the system and looking for what some people call chinks, which there's always chinks in the system, or strategies that can capture, moments in the system where there's a very favorable risk reward. But either way, whatever it is, you have to work something out and fathom something out, and then bring yourself to it. And like you say, maybe develop that intelligence somewhere.
Yeah, I go back to this is about the intelligence of presence, because all of what you've just described comes from the presence of awareness and attention to the task at hand, and that curiosity and that desire to, that desire to, to be curious is so damned important. And so I think I was sort of concluding slightly that the intelligence we're talking about here is the intelligence of presence, or even understanding presence. What is presence? Sort that out, and I think the rest of the journey becomes. I think the rest of the journey is open to you once you have presence sorted out. If you've not got a sorted presence out, you're just going to be bouncing around between all sorts of things, making wrong decisions, taking wrong directions. Apply that to trading, and it becomes a disaster. And I think we see lots of disasters where people have clearly not sorted out presence, and it's just, there's no purpose as a result. There's no structure as a result. There's no plan. There's no there's no end of the journey and the recalibration.
So that's emotional intelligence now.
Yeah.
And that's why this is so key.
Yeah. Once you can talk about it in a 360-degree sort of way, once you've got it. Yeah, once you've got the understanding of it.
Yeah, I think that is the most important intelligence in trading, in markets. You can have analytical intelligence, you can have intellectual intelligence, but without emotional intelligence.
It's soft skills, it's the soft stuff. Focus on the soft stuff.
Yeah.
Sort the soft stuff out and invest in it. As we said, there's a degree of investing. I guess you listen to this podcast because you're looking to pick up some things that might just help. Use this podcast, early podcast of 2025, to give you some sort of structural thinking around the things you need to focus upon to get right, to make the rest of the journey much more efficient.
So it would be remiss of us not to perhaps give the listeners some ideas of how can they develop and grow and improve their emotional intelligence. Everyone has a degree of emotional intelligence. That's, it would be crazy to think you don't. How do you cultivate that and make it stronger?
Well, I'd say my background is I sorted it out with mindfulness. I think if you're into sort of wanting to keep fit, then doing martial arts will start to get you into that sense of performance, plus the cognitive skills to deal with being present. And certainly martial arts has it. Yoga has it as well in terms of meditation. Meditation, mindfulness, all that stuff. Ray Dalio does it. Djokovic does it. All the biggest stars do it because they've kind of worked out that actually having some sort of mental fitness approach to the cognitive part of their being actually is super important. It's very personal. There are some things that work for some and other things work for others. I've got a particular client that I'm just doing visualization stories to that's totally changing his trading and his awareness of just what he's seeing in front of him on screen. It's something that can't just be easily described without starting a journey with somebody, understanding them, going a little bit into their background, and then working out that equation. I think it's more of an equation, and getting the equation right is really, really important, but it will contain those components, certainly if they're coming through me. Part of that structure is actually starting to understand the stuff that gets in the way, what triggers you, and starting to iron out those creases as well, because that might make you less present if you've got things that are turning up in your life that are constantly grabbing your attention and sending you into some sort of mental loop of despair that you want to be doing something, but you keep on getting distracted is not something that's going to help. So understanding what gets in your way and trying to remove those distractions is also part of managing presence and keeping presence. You can't be present all of the time, right? It's like but if you can just be aware of the fact that try to be as optimally present as possible, that's where you kind of want to be. No one's perfect. So it's not going to be it's not going to be a journey where you think, yeah, I'm present, bang, done. It's like, you got to keep on working with it. That equation might need to be adjusted. There are other things that might turn up that you find. I got sent a pair of smart goggles for Christmas that I've yet to try, which is some sort of meditation thing you stick on your face. I'm going to give it a go. I know there's stuff out there. But pay attention to what's between your ears. That's neuroplasticity means it can be changed. It can be adjusted and tweaked into being working with you and working for you in your journey into complexity, challenging world of trading. Special forces are doing it, US Army's doing it, British Army's doing it, sportsmen are doing it. If you're a trader, yeah, you should be doing this sort of stuff. That's important.
So many people who we meet at the very cutting edge of markets are doing that, are doing it in some form, doing it regularly, making it a key part of their work. Yeah. So that's
embarrassed about it. It's like, in fact, you can do it without anyone knowing about it. It's like, just be on your own journey, but remember that bit is important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And reach out to us. If you want to talk about it and trader orientated, then you know where we are. Reach out to us about it, and we can have a discussion.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Well, listen, Mark, this has been great. Yeah. Thank you for your reflections on this. I hope you, the audience, have got something from this, and really do think about how you can develop these other intelligences, and I suppose give it greater weight than definitely give emotional awareness and the development of self emotional intelligence.
I guess if you're in the professional world building a team, it's I'm sure you're thinking about it anyway. But if you're not, it's like maybe the hiring process is something that needs a little bit of work around, because if everyone keeps on hiring out of Oxbridge and Ivy League, then you might just end up with people that are thinking the same. That's not beneficial for trading, I think.
No. Okay, thank you very much, Mark, and you enjoy the rest of your day.
We shall catch you soon. I hope your voice improves.
Thank you. Thank you once again for tuning into the AlphaMind podcast. We hope you enjoyed this and you got something out of this. As a reminder, do remember that we have a vast back catalogue of episodes, some with amazing guests, traders, former traders, from all sides of the markets, psychologists, coaches, analysts, commentators on the industry of trading and markets, authors. So there really is a deep back catalogue of our episodes now, covering all sorts of themes over a long period since late 2019. We also want to thank our podcast partner, the Society of Technical Analysts. As we say, do go to their website, technicalanalyst.com, find out more about their services, their brilliant home study course, which you can get a discount on. Just go to our website, alpha-mind.net, to find out more about that. And if you are still thinking about how you can develop yourself as a trader, do look more closely at our services. Obviously, we have our high performance trader learning program coming up soon, but we work with many organisations and individuals to help improve trader performance, both at the individual level and team and business system level. Other than that, we just wish you the best of luck in your work and have a great week. Bye bye.